For people that say that money is not important, well, why do you go to work every day? And although many people spend their life suffering in the idea of going to work to pay bills and staying over leverage and staying in debt and making just enough to get by or just enough to buy things and take trips and drink stuff and smoke stuff to anesthetize the life that you don't want, at the core of it all, we go to work because we know money is important. And most of us would accept the largest amount of money that we would take if provided. What's up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of the Believers in Business podcast. I'm your host, Brian Adamson. I'm so glad y'all tuning in today. And y'all gonna be so glad that y'all tuned in today because we got a topic today that I just got super excited about when I thought about it earlier. And I think that you guys are going to find a lot of value in it because I think it's what we spend most of our lives doing. And that's pursuing riches at the core of it, right? Like, for people that say that money is not important, well, why do you go to work every day? And although many people spend their life suffering in the idea of going to work to pay bills and staying over leverage and staying in debt and making just enough to get by or just enough to buy things and take trips and drink stuff and smoke stuff to anesthetize the life that you don't want, at the core of it all, we go to work because we know money is important. And most of us would accept the largest amount of money that we would take if provided. But the question that I want everybody to think and ask themselves today is, if you aren't rich, why aren't you rich? And I'm gonna put a yet at the end of that because I'm hopeful for those of you that should become rich at some point in time that you get there. And so we're gonna leave that yet out there for a very specific reason. But I want you to ask yourself that if you aren't rich, why aren't you rich? And I got a burning hypothesis as to why that is the case. If y'all anything like me, and I would like to say that I'm pretty optimistic, but I'm probably more pessimistic than optimistic. I'm a realist and I just see things in black and white. I don't do well in gray. Tell me yes, tell me no, tell me something, I gotta go. I don't like hanging out in purgatory, which I pray for patience a lot, as one could imagine. Because I just like to know what it is or what it's not. And unfortunately, the way that God designed this thing called life, you just don't get that privilege, right? Because then you wouldn't have practiced self-control and patience and all those other things that God wants us to become in the process of this journey. And I find myself being very observant. I can't help but to see people getting rich and wealthy doing certain things. And maybe y'all very similar to me in that regard. You see people getting rich in crypto. You see people getting rich in day trade. You see people getting rich in investing in cannabis. You see people getting rich today in gambling, right? Sports betting is a big thing. We see people getting rich in a lot of different ways. And I'm not excluding the real estate or the growing a business or I'm not negating any of that. But as we all know, things like real estate investing takes longer to become rich and wealthy at. Things like growing a business to exit takes longer to get rich and wealthy at. But I'm looking at the cryptos of the world, the Bitcoins, and I don't want to call them pump and dumps, but y'all get it. It's the faster way that society has showed us that we can get rich and wealthy. And there's a tremendous amount of people doing it, by the way. But have you ever stopped to think why that don't work for you? Now, I ain't invested in cannabis since it's been legal. I used to invest in it back in the day when it wasn't, okay? But short of that, I've tried to some degree all the rest of it. And I still even hold some of those things I mentioned in my portfolio in small quantities. It's just not the main thing that I do because it's just never been the thing that caught fire for me. And if y'all anything like me, you probably considered the same thing for yourself. Like, man, as I look around, my peers or otherwise, all these people getting rich doing all this stuff, but it don't work for me. That got me like begging the question today, which I think I probably answered this question for myself, but I wanted to pose it so that you could start to answer it for yourself and maybe become less frustrated in your journey. And what I've discovered, at least in my own journey, is the reason why I can't get rich doing certain things that others do is because God don't intend for me to get rich the same way that others have. See, if we truly believe that God created us for his purpose, if we truly believe that the gifts that he's provided us is to fulfill his purpose, then the best opportunity we got at getting rich in life is to yield to his purpose. And you may be like, well, be them other people believers and they seem to be good people, but they still get money. Yeah, but their gifting may not be as such that I give you an example. So for those of y'all that's been following along with the podcast or otherwise, you know that part of my gifting is communication. Part of my gifting is teaching. Part of my gifting is exhortation. Part of my gifting is I got an apostolic gift and I'm an entrepreneur. I know how to take vision and cast vision and grow things and build things. But at the core of all of that, the fundamental or the catalyst to make all my other gifts work is communication. Even when you look at my spiritual gift of wisdom and discernment, well, that's great, but that still happens through communication. And then it blesses others through communication. So I'm never going to get away from the gift of communication. It's the core of all the other gifts. But everybody ain't got the gift to communicate. Y'all done probably sat in some business meetings and or churches to figure that out. Like, how did they even get, it's baffling, right? But because I'm aware of that, then I'm aware that God is not going to put me in a position to be able to go lock myself in a room with 5 computer screens and day trade all day. Why? Because that would keep me secluded and it wouldn't allow for me to operate in my gift, which is to be out here mixing it up with people, to be able to share on the podcast, to be able to speak in front of a crowd, to be able to do all these various things through all these various mediums to allow for me to exude my gift. And when I'm operating in my gift and I'm deploying that into my purpose, then he getting the glory for that. But if I get locked in this room with 5 computer screens, I just may be confused enough to think I done got so good at trading, I did this. And not only did I do this, but now I just may get to play little G God in my life and think I'm doing the Lord's work because now I got all this financial access to where I'm taking care of this person and I bought this person a car and I put this person in a house and I. Y'all seeing where I'm going with this? And so it's part of God's protection not to allow us to get rich in the ways in which we probably intend in a lot of ways because it would destroy us. That pride that go before destruction. He who humbles himself shall be exalted, but he who exalts himself shall be humble. And it's not, I would say the older I get, the more spiritual maturation that occurs. I grow to a point of understanding and accepting like that's just my lot. Hey, real quick, are you operating at a level 10 in your life? Do you want to? I'm talking about a level 10 in your finances, a level 10 in your health and wellness, a level 10 in your marriage and your family life. Like excelling in every single area that's important for you personally and as a business owner. Because if you anything like me, you probably figured out, unless you have every single important area of your life firing on all cylinders, you still don't have success. Like I've been rich and miserable. I've had seasons where my health was compromised, which made the money not so important all of a sudden. I had seasons where my marriage was challenged. The money ain't so important all of a sudden. But here's what I figured out though. There is a world that exists that you can have your faith, your fitness, your finance, your freedom, and your family life firing on all cylinders. And if you don't want to be like the status quo and live a life at a level 3 and be mediocre, then I got just a place for you. It's called Believers in Business. It's a phenomenal community with like-minded individuals who all seek a level 10 life. And in there, you're going to get the tools, the resources to be able to excel in every one of those aspects of your life and in your business, as well as get business coaching to help you to continue to persist and grow your business so that you can have not only the financial success as a 6 and 7 figure entrepreneur, but that you can have holistic success. If that's you, click the link. I promise I'm out your way. Get back to the episode. But that also means that it takes a lot longer for me to see the success that I would like to see in a lot of cases. Although I've made millions of dollars, I swear it's been a fight for every single dollar it feel like. I've also had revelations surrounding that as of late as to why I think that is too, which, I mean, since we're here, I'll share a little bit, but I think it deserves its own episode. Just yesterday. So one of the things that I've had a challenge with respects to my relationship with God has been feeling his love. It's not that I'm a cold-hearted guy. I'm just very objective. Back to that, I'm more black and white. I'm less emotional. So anyway, as I mentioned, right, I think this deserves its own conversation. But I will say this part. I think about how oftentimes I feel like I'm the children of Israel, where I'm just out in the wilderness for years and years and years and years and years. What I thought about yesterday was my relationship with my natural father, right, my human father. Because a lot of the time when you start to think about your relationship with your heavenly father, you should probably start to evaluate what your relationship is with your earthly father. And I'm like, why is it that God puts me in tight spots more often than not? Regardless of how much success I have, he always brings me back to a tight spot. And at the core of it, if I had to be honest with myself, which is always the best policy, I thought back to the fact that my relationship with my earthly father was oftentimes, at least to me, and I'm not putting this on him, to me felt like a lot of, it was performance oriented, right? It's performance based. You get good grades, I give you something. Like you achieve, we reward. Nothing wrong with that. But in my mind, I think that developed this performance based idea behind like earning. And I've seen that carry over my relationship with God. And he definitely ain't about, there's nothing we could do to earn the grace that he gives us. There's nothing that we can do to earn the provision that he gives us. And so he's been having to work through that and me and his relationship because he loves us too much to allow us to stay in a broken state. Anything that's inconsistent with his will and his idea for our relationship, he gonna work that out of us. But I say that to say this, as I thought about it, although my earthly father, his love language was provision. He wasn't the same thing, but far less affectionate than even I am. Okay, that just wasn't his thing, and there's a lot of layers and reasons for that, which I ain't gonna get into in this episode. But the way he expressed his love to us was through provision. And then I got to thinking yesterday about how since about the age of 12, when I started sweeping up here in the barbershop for $25 a week, I've always been infatuated with making my own money. Now watch where I'm going with this. So since about the age of 12, thing that my earthly father did to express his love to me, I really didn't receive it in that way because I was always focused on going to do that for myself. So I was in high school getting money, like buying $500,000 jackets at 15, 16 years old. Like I was getting money in high school. Won't get into all the details of how at this moment, but some was legit, okay? But the point is that in my mind, I've been providing for myself for a very long time. So then I think about how God bring me back to these tight spots, and I realize, have I been taking that posture towards him? To where he really have to put me in situations so that without a shadow of a doubt, I know that it was his blessing and miracle that had to happen in my life. I'm expressing this to y'all in real time because it just happened last night, but I need to sit in prayer with that and with him some more, because I could be prolonging seasons of my life and breakthroughs, sustainable breakthroughs, because of my heart posture toward what's really happening. And consciously, as I say it and think it, I would never think like I'm doing something and God not. But subconsciously, maybe my heart, maybe it's something I need to work through. So anyway, that one was for free today. But I wanted to highlight that because I think it's so relevant to the conversation of when we start to look at what we're doing and we're looking at the fruit of what we're doing. And we feel like based on the amount of effort, investment, time, energy, resources, that we're not bearing the amount of fruit that we desire or that we think we even deserve. And I'm careful with using that word. Can we investigate, is the thing we doing consistent with what we think that God intends for us to do? Because motives matter. He's only blessing us to be a blessing. He's giving us, now don't get me wrong, he wants us to enjoy it, no doubt about it. The wanting inside of us to have more, to be more, to do more, he put that in us. So there's nothing wrong with desiring, a big house and a nice car and, trips and excess. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it can't stop there, though. It can't stop there. There's a proverb that even talks about, matter of fact, I'll pull it up. I'll do you one better. I'll pull that thing up because I think it's going to be a good reference for me to just think about this when you're thinking about heart posture. Because it ain't God could give us all money. That's easy. So Proverbs 11:24 says, give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. So motives matter. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. So when we think of giving, I think a lot of the time we think about like the physical aspect of it. But what if you're not getting rich the way God intended? Because the way he wants you to get rich, other people will get rich. So back to my day trading example. So if you're just sitting around with 5 screens and you running your checkup and you got a couple of M's, but that really only benefit you other than when you pick and choose when you want to bless others, right? And even then you're giving them means or contribution, but you're not necessarily changing their life. Now watch this. Same application, sit in front of them screens, get proficient, get great at day trading. However, your goal is, now that you become successful, become a millionaire, multimillionaire by doing so, your goal is to open up an academy to show people how to do it. Your goal is to create courses to show people how to do it. That changes the whole dynamic of what the plan was. Why? Because it's no longer about you. It's about the fact that you're the one that's taking responsibility of learning the thing so that then you can go back and help others create generational wealth. See, it's one thing to create generational wealth for you and your own. And scripture tells us that we should do that, right? A good man plans for his children. But it's something altogether different when it's bigger than you and you want to go out and inject other people with this type of skill set, wisdom, knowledge, so that they can go and create generational wealth for them and theirs. So I hope this at least, got y'all a little bit curious and provided some comfort, right? Because it could be very frustrating, right? And if we could be honest, at times you can even grow a disdain for God. Like, why is it that it seems like no matter how hard I work and what I do, I don't get the fruit? These people seem like they ain't working hard at all and they just constantly winning. And they winning at doing something that seemingly seem a lot less labor intensive, time intensive, arduous than what I do every day. And so it's a lot of different reasons to that. But I believe for the body of believers, the thing that we got to investigate is the thing that I'm trying to get rich and wealthy at. If it hasn't happened for me yet, or if I keep finding resistance, is it an area that allows me to deploy my gifts into my purpose? And the result of that is the payoff put me in position to glorify God. And if it checks those boxes, you're probably on to something. If it doesn't, you probably need to be talking to God about a pivot sooner than late. All things work together for our good, right? Romans 8:28. So there's never a wasted experience in the kingdom. God is the master economist. He always gonna repurpose whatever we doing. But I don't know about y'all, At 41, I'm tired of do-overs. I rather look, my prayer every day. I'm like, just please give me your desires. I don't got none as far as I'm concerned. I want my desires to be your desires so we could desire the same thing and I could just work on that. Because the truth is, it don't matter how hard I go work in this other area. Now, don't get me wrong, seed and harvest is principle. So if I sow enough seeds, I'm going to reap a harvest. But if it's still not in the vein of what God has purposed and called me to do, then, I mean, I'm not wasting time, but I am. To me, at this point, I feel like I'm wasting time, right? Because I know that the backlash of all that, just all that, I'm over it, as y'all could probably hear or see if you're watching the video. And so for me, success looks like getting really clear about what he has designed me to do for his purpose, why he got me here, why he put me here. And the more that I can lean into that, then the more I'm making deposits in the right area of my life. Even if it don't happen today, I at least know in 10 years I've been working on the right thing up to that point. And for me, that's important in this season because time is precious. People leaving here daily. For those of us that think because we in our 20s, 30s, or 40s that we got a tremendous amount of time, that's an arrogant assumption that God gave you time that he never told you. And so the best opportunity we got is in the now, and we need to be capitalizing on that at all costs. I just really hope that this got you thinking about your current situation differently. Just to put a bow on the conversation, when you look at why people don't get rich at work, just think about the very thing I just said. Work ain't designed for that. There's no generational wealth in the form of a job. You're not passing down the job, right? More often than not, you're not passing down the skill from the job. So the thing that's going to typically make you rich and wealthy is going to happen outside of an employer. And it's going to be more along the lines of you operating in your gift and your purpose. I hope this was helpful for y'all. I appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. And at the end of the day, just stick to the mission.